What's the very first thing you should do if your spouse passes before you? Most people don't have a clear answer, and when the moment comes, they find themselves overwhelmed by grief, confusion, and decisions they never expected to face alone. The truth is, no matter how strong your relationship was, or how long you were together, the death of a spouse changes everything. It shakes the ground beneath you, leaves you with an aching, quiet, and hands you a list of tasks when you can barely get out of bed. This video is not about legal paperwork or what to say at the funeral. It's about what to do first, for yourself emotionally and practically, to survive those first waves of loss. We'll walk through 6 essential steps that will help you hold steady in the middle of one of the most difficult times in life. These aren't cold instructions or distant advice. They're rooted in experience, compassion, and the deep understanding that grief doesn't come with a manual. Each of these 6 things is something that real people, just like you, have found to be crucial in their healing. And while none of them take away the pain, they can give you a sense of steadiness when everything else feels uncertain. If your spouse dies first, and I hope that day is far, far away, you need to know what to do, not just to function, but to eventually live again. Stay with me until the end, because the 6th point is one most people never consider, yet it often determines how the rest of their life unfolds after loss. Let's begin. Number 1, the need to feel before you fix. When your spouse dies, the world doesn't just go quiet, it goes numb. The routines you shared, the conversations you counted on, even the sound of their footsteps in the other room, they're suddenly gone. And the silence left behind is not just external. It settles into your chest, heavy and hollow. And in those early days, there's a deep temptation to push through, to take care of the paperwork, the calls, the arrangements, the logistics, anything to stay busy enough not to feel the full weight of it. But here's the truth before you do anything else. You need to let yourself feel. This doesn't mean falling apart. It means giving yourself permission to grieve without guilt, without a timeline, and without judgment. There is no proper way to mourn. There is no fixed schedule for when the tears stop, or when the bed feels less empty. What matters most in those first days is that you don't push the feelings down so far they harden. Because grief that's avoided doesn't disappear, it waits. And when it returns later, it does so with more confusion and more pain. Some people think showing emotion is weakness, especially after a loss. They say things like, "I have to be strong for the kids," or "he wouldn't want me to cry." But strength doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean swallowing your sadness so others won't feel uncomfortable. Strength is allowing yourself to acknowledge the full weight of your love and the hole that's left behind. Think about someone like Evelyn, an 81-year-old woman, who lost her husband after 52 years together. In the first week, she busied herself with errands and cleaning out closets, telling everyone she was fine. But late at night, she found herself staring at his chair, not because she missed the conversations, but because she was pretending she didn't. When she finally let herself cry, really cry, it was as if something shifted. Not because the pain left, but because it finally had room to breathe. You are not broken because you're devastated. You are not weak because you can't get through the day without breaking down. Grief is not something you solve, it's something you carry. And if you don't give yourself space to acknowledge it fully, you'll end up carrying it in unhealthy ways through anger, numbness, or even illness. So the first thing you must do if your spouse dies before you is pause. Sit with the loss, even if it hurts. Let yourself cry. Let yourself talk about them. Let yourself admit that nothing makes sense yet. You don't need to have a plan. You don't need to put on a brave face. You just need to feel. Because in doing so, you begin to heal. And healing always starts with honesty. Number 2, the importance of reaching out right away. In the hours and days following the death of your spouse, the sense of isolation can sneak up on you faster than you expect. One moment, people are calling, dropping off food, sending flowers, and then suddenly the house gets quiet. The door stops knocking. The phone slows down. And if you're not careful, that silence turns into separation. That's why one of the most important things you can do early on is this: reach out before the loneliness settles in too deeply. You don't have to say anything profound. You don't have to explain how you feel. But you do need to let people know you're here and that you need them. This doesn't mean pouring your heart out to everyone or trying to entertain guests when you're barely functioning. It simply means not waiting for others to make the first move. Because the truth is, even the people who love you, most might be unsure of what to say or how to help. They may hesitate, not because they don't care, but because they're afraid of intruding. By taking that small step, sending a message, picking up the phone, or even just responding when someone checks in, you're building a protective layer against the kind of loneliness that doesn't just feel bad, but starts to affect your mind and body. Social isolation is one of the most harmful things that can happen to a person after loss. It affects sleep, blood pressure, immune function, even memory. And it does it quietly. Let's talk about Jim, a 77-year-old whose wife passed after a long illness. At first, friends called every day, but he often let it go to voicemail. He didn't want to talk. He didn't feel like repeating the story or pretending to be okay. And slowly the calls stopped coming. It wasn't until a neighbor knocked on his door weeks later that Jim realized he'd been sinking without even noticing. After that, he made a small promise to himself, just one call a day, one real conversation. That tiny act turned into something bigger. It gave him a lifeline. Grief tries to convince you that you're alone, but connection reminds you that you're not. You don't have to talk about the loss if you're not ready. You can talk about memories, the weather, a funny story from years ago. What matters is the presence, knowing someone is on the other end of the line or the other side of the table. And if you have no family nearby or you're worried about becoming a burden, remember this: many communities have grief support groups, senior centers, or local volunteers who will sit with you, talk with you, or simply be a quiet companion. Reaching out doesn't mean admitting defeat. It means choosing not to carry your pain alone. The early days after loss are dangerous, not just emotionally, but physically. Your body is under stress, your mind is foggy, and your heart is vulnerable. Surrounding yourself with people, even in the smallest ways, acts as a kind of emotional scaffolding, holding you up while you find your balance again. So, if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, the urgency of organizing critical documents. When someone passes, especially a spouse, it feels like the world should stop. But the truth is, the world keeps moving. Bills arrive, notices are mailed, accounts freeze, and in the middle of your grief, you're suddenly faced with questions you may not be ready to answer. That's why one of the most important things you must do, as gently and clearly as possible, is locate and review all the critical documents tied to your spouse's life. It's not cold and heartless. It's necessary. You'll need to find the will, insurance policies, bank account information, marriage certificate, death certificate, and any documents related to property, pensions, or military service. And you'll need to do it while your mind is tired and your heart is raw. This is where many people either delay out of overwhelm or rush without clarity, and both can lead to mistakes that make the weeks ahead more painful than they need to be. Some people believe they'll get to it once they're ready, but unfortunately, timing isn't always in your control. There are legal and financial steps that often have tight deadlines. Life insurance may need to be claimed. Social Security might need to be contacted. Utility accounts may need to be transferred. If you wait too long or miss something crucial, it could impact your finances in ways that are hard to reverse. Think of someone like Harold, age 79, who lost his wife unexpectedly. She handled most of the paperwork over the years, so when she passed, Harold didn't know where the insurance policy was. Weeks passed before he found it tucked inside a drawer in her sewing room. By then, he'd already covered several expenses from his own savings. Not knowing the policy would have helped. It wasn't a matter of neglect. It was simply a matter of timing. And when you're grieving, clarity is hard to come by. If you feel too overwhelmed to handle these documents yourself, ask someone you trust to sit with you while you do. A family member, a friend, even a professional advisor, someone who can walk through it slowly and help keep track of what's been found and what still needs attention. Even just creating a simple checklist can ease the fog. Keep everything in one place. Get a folder or a box. Make copies of what's most important. Write down account numbers, passwords, contact names, anything that someone else would need to know if they had to step in for you. Because grief isn't just emotional, it's administrative. And that part catches a lot of people off guard. This step may feel like business, but in reality, it's part of honoring your spouse's life. It's making sure nothing is lost, overlooked, or left in chaos. It's protecting the legacy they worked so hard to build and making sure you're not left carrying the weight alone. You don't have to finish everything in one day, but you do have to begin. And once you start, you'll often find that the act of organizing, even in sorrow, can bring a small sense of order back into a world that suddenly feels unrecognizable. Number 4, the discipline of protecting your health. Grief doesn't just affect your heart, it affects your entire body. And in the days and weeks after your spouse passes, you may find it harder than ever to take care of yourself. Meals get skipped, sleep becomes fractured, motivation disappears. Even simple things like brushing your teeth or stepping outside can feel pointless. But this is precisely the time when caring for your health matters most. Because the loss of a spouse doesn't just break routines, it puts your physical well-being at risk in ways you might not expect. Many widowed seniors experience sudden weight loss, fatigue, digestive problems, chest tightness, and forgetfulness. Not because they're sick, but because their bodies are reacting to deep emotional distress. This state of stress, when prolonged, can weaken the immune system, elevate blood pressure, disrupt hormone levels, and make pre-existing conditions worse. The grief is real, and so is the toll it takes on your body. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to train for a marathon or overhaul your entire diet. But you do need to give your body basic care, even if it feels hollow at first. That means eating something nourishing at regular intervals, even if it's small. It means moving your body, just a slow walk around the block or stretching in your living room. It means going to bed at a reasonable time, even if you don't fall asleep right away. These aren't just health tips. They are acts of survival. Think of Margaret, age 84, who lost her husband of 60 years. She was so overwhelmed in those early weeks that she forgot to take her blood pressure medication and skipped several meals in a row. It wasn't until she fainted while grocery shopping that her daughter realized what was happening. It wasn't a medical emergency. It was grief, untreated and unmonitored, finding its way into her physical system. Once Margaret began keeping a written routine, meals, water, pills, daily check-ins, her strength slowly returned, and so did her clarity. There's a saying in grief counseling that applies here. When you don't know what to do, care for the animal in you. Feed it, water it, let it rest, let it move. Because at the most basic level, your body's trying to find equilibrium again, and it needs your help to get there. You may not feel hungry. Eat anyway. You may not feel tired. Lie down anyway. You may not want to get dressed. Do it anyway. Not because you're faking strength, but because you're rebuilding it. One quiet decision at a time. And don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor during this time, even if you think it's just the stress. Sometimes even just talking to a professional and having your vitals checked can help ground you. It reminds you that you're still here, still in need of care. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean moving on. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring the person you lost by not losing yourself in the process. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, the danger of rushed decisions. In the wake of loss, there's often a sudden urge to make big changes. You might feel tempted to sell the house, move closer to your children, get rid of your spouse's belongings, or make major financial shifts just to escape the reminders. It's understandable. When your world is turned upside down, changing your environment can feel like the only way to regain some sense of control. But here's the truth. Most major decisions made during the early stages of grief are decisions people later regret. This doesn't mean you won't eventually need to make changes. You might. But right now, your mind is clouded by sorrow, exhaustion, and an aching desire for stability that can't be solved by external moves. What feels like a solution today might become a source of regret a few months from now. And when your spouse passes, the last thing you need is added layers of loss. Let's take an example. George, age 76, lost his wife suddenly after a stroke. Within 2 weeks, he sold their house and moved into a small apartment near his son, thinking it would help him feel less alone. But once the dust settled, George found himself overwhelmed with regret. He missed his neighbors, his garden, the kitchen they remodeled together. The apartment, though practical, felt foreign. And now he had to grieve both the loss of his wife and the comfort of the life they built. Grief needs space. And part of that space includes waiting before you make permanent changes. You don't have to leave the photos where they are forever, but you don't have to take them down tomorrow either. You don't have to decide whether to keep the house, close the account, cancel the membership, or reassign the belongings immediately. Give yourself permission to pause. And if others are pressuring you to move forward or clear things out, gently explain that you need time. This is not about clinging to the past. It's about allowing your emotions to catch up to reality. Acting too quickly may relieve discomfort temporarily, but it often leaves emotional scars that take years to process. This applies especially to financial decisions. Signing papers, selling assets, or altering investments should be done with care, and ideally with the help of someone you trust, who isn't emotionally entangled in the situation. Whether it's a family member, a financial advisor, or even an experienced friend, having another set of eyes on these decisions can protect you from acting out of desperation or confusion. What you're facing is heavy, and there's no shame in taking your time. In fact, it's wise. The goal is not to avoid action forever, it's to act from a place of clarity instead of reaction. And that kind of clarity only comes with time, rest, and support. You've already experienced one major change. Don't multiply the pain by rushing into others. Let yourself adjust. Let the fog lift. And when the moment is right, you'll know. You'll feel more grounded, more certain, more able to look forward without losing what matters from the past. Number 6, the quiet work of rebuilding your identity. When your spouse dies, it's not just their absence you're grieving, it's the version of yourself that existed beside them. You were part of a team, a shared rhythm, a partnership with its own language. Maybe you were John and Mary or us, or simply we. But now there is no we. And that change goes deeper than a title. It shifts the very foundation of who you believe yourself to be. At first, it might not be obvious. You may be focused on arrangements, paperwork, visitors, and daily survival. But eventually, a question begins to echo in the silence. Who am I now? And the truth is, most people aren't prepared to answer it. For decades, your life may have revolved around shared routines, meals, decisions, goals, even jokes only the two of you understood. Without that shared presence, your role shifts. You're no longer the caretaker, the partner, the spouse in the way you were. And it's not that your love disappears, it never does. But the structure it lived inside of has changed forever. This stage of grief is not often discussed, but it's one of the most important. It's about the slow, quiet work of rebuilding your sense of self, not as a replacement, but as an evolution. It's allowing yourself to ask, what do I enjoy now? What does peace feel like for me? What do I want these next years to be about? Even if they look different from what I imagined? Take someone like Irene, age 82, who lost her husband after 55 years of marriage. In the beginning, she kept everything the same. His slippers by the door, his coffee mug on the counter. She couldn't imagine life without the we. But months later, she started painting again, something she hadn't done since her 20s. Not to distract herself, but to reconnect with a version of herself she'd forgotten. It didn't mean she loved her husband any less. It meant she was still alive and needed to keep living. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to become someone new, even while carrying the memory of who you were together. Rebuilding your identity doesn't betray the past. It honors it by continuing forward with intention. Maybe that means joining a group. Maybe it means traveling somewhere you always dreamed of. Maybe it means reading a new kind of book, making new friends, or simply learning how to be content in your own company. These are not replacements for love. They are responses to life. You don't have to figure it all out at once. In fact, you won't. Identity after loss is something you discover inch by inch, day by day. But each small step, each new habit, each tiny curiosity is part of reclaiming your story. You are not only who you were with your spouse, you are also who you are becoming without them. And that version of you deserves just as much care, attention, and love as the one before. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Final thoughts. Losing your spouse is one of life's deepest cuts. It doesn't just take away the person you love, it takes away the rhythm of your days, the sound of your home, the comfort of being seen without needing to explain yourself. Nothing prepares you for that silence. Nothing fills it entirely. But as painful as it is, there are things you can do, small, human, compassionate things that help you survive the storm and slowly, carefully begin again. These 6 steps we've talked about are not rules. They're anchors. They help you stay grounded when the grief feels too big. Feeling before fixing, reaching out early, gathering documents, caring for your health, avoiding rushed decisions, and rebuilding your identity. None of them are easy, but every one of them matters. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to do it quickly. You just have to keep going. And if you take nothing else from this video, let it be this: you are not alone. Others have walked this road. Others are walking it right now. And each of them, just like you, is figuring out how to live with a heart that's been broken open. Grief doesn't mean your story is over. It means a new chapter has begun. One you didn't ask for, one you never wanted, but one that is still yours to write. And in that chapter, you get to decide what healing looks like, what love looks like, what life can still become, even after the hardest goodbye. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.